Eugene Behrman, coach of the Stars, in all fairness. I mean, this guy's every bit as hot right now as Clayton Hires. This guy's every bit as Rafael Cadero. I mean, this guy is red hot. This guy's as hot as Freddie Roach. Maybe hotter. This guy's got more champions in the barn. I lose track of them between champions and top contenders, but he's Izzy's coach. He came out and he echoed Izzy's sentiment in terms of the fine for guys that miss weight. And he said it's criminal. It's criminal what they're doing. Now, to break that down, of course, he does not mean you should be put in handcuffs and you should be put in jail, but I'm on the same thought. But let's just break this down just so everybody understands, okay? I come from an amateur wrestling background. One of the few sports in the world, much like MMA, where you must make weight to participate. Wrestling is a hard stop, though. There is no, okay, you missed weight by 5 pounds or you missed it by 0.5 of a pound. It is pass-fail. If you fail, you are out. If it is a tournament, you are removed from the tournament, and every point that you scored for your team in the tournament goes with you. It is that heavy of a violation. I could count on one hand. I've been wrestling since I was 9 years old. I am still involved in the sport, so I'm going to let the clock keep ticking all the way to this day. 31 years in the sport. I could count on one hand guys that I know of that have missed weight. I have never seen it at the NCAA tournament. It may have happened. I'm not aware of it, and I follow it closely. Never happened at the Worlds. Never happened at the Olympics. I'm sure that's a broad statement, and I don't know of it. Seen it one time at the Junior Nationals. Still remember the guy's name. Ben Perkins from Nebraska. Doesn't happen. I don't see it at kids' tournaments. I simply don't see it. Now, when you get older in wrestling, high school is where this will start. Also goes into college. You are focused on what's called a dual meet. So you will say ahead of time as the head coach what your roster is. If that guy does not make weight, that guy is then scratched. However, on the kids level, let's say you show up. I was 9 years old. I wrestled at 75 pounds. If I showed up at 76 pounds, I wasn't scratched. They didn't throw me out of the tournament and I had to get in the truck and go home and deal with my father. I just had to move up to the next weight class. And so that was the easy fix. Everybody gets to compete. You try to make the weight you want, but if you don't make it, you just go up to the next weight class and deal with those guys. Okay, fine. When you get into pro MMA, though, and to use Coach Eugene's line, he said this is criminal. That would be an exaggeration. That would be the wrong word to use, but it's not. He's not insane for saying it. You have a contract. If you break a contract, that is illegal. It is illegal. Now, there happens to be a built-in formula. There happens to be a built-in remedy for the way they're going to solve this, which is there's going to be a fine. Most commission's going to take some of that. That's going to go right into their kitty. They're going to give the other half, 20%. Commission's going to keep 10. Pissed us off, we're keeping 10%. We're going to give this guy 10% because now he's at a disadvantage. I like that. I mean, in all fairness, you have to understand, as much as we hate to see somebody miss weight, the one you feel bad for isn't the fan. The fan gets burnt. That match doesn't happen. Somebody bought a ticket to it, stopped what they're doing, throwing a party to see a guy, and that guy doesn't show up. That's also criminal in many ways. The promoter did nothing wrong. The promoter always has to be left holding the bag. That's just the way it works. The promoter did nothing wrong. He's got some guy he worked with. He's took his word. Whatever happened, and the guy failed on his word. I only offer you this because the only other scenario, if you want to go to the cutthroat weight that we did it in wrestling, which is you are out of here, which also explained why in 31 years in the sport, I know 5 guys that have ever missed weight. 5 guys. I'm going back to the time I was 9 years old. I could tell you 5 guys who have missed weight. In fact, I just tried to tell you when I came up with 2. I trust I could come up with 3 more. If you want to go to that, okay, fine, but you have other things that you're serving here, okay? First off, this is a television show. The UFC doesn't promise, by example, they don't promise ESPN 11 fights. They bring you 11, but they don't promise ESPN 11 fights. They promise ESPN X amount of time. So if you lose a fight, you could now be in violation of a contract with the worldwide leader. What did Dana do wrong to deserve that? So you see where the problem comes? There starts to be multiple victims. I'm trying to paint a different scenario for you. I digressed and got off the topic. If the fight isn't allowed to go on because you're saying somebody did a criminal act, if we don't refer back to the remedy the commission is already predisposed, which is the fine. and the way that that money's going to be cut up. If we don't do that, the only other option is what I laid out for you, what wrestling does, where you get in the car and go home. Now you're talking about an athlete who did do everything right. You're talking about the opponent, who did do everything right, who was a man of his word, who did go through a training camp, who has his own bills that he has to pay. Which, by the way, the corner and the trainer, those guys don't get paid weekly, just so you understand. The corner and the trainer let it all ride. And once that fight happens, boom, then they get their cut. And their cut is very small. Those guys also are going to get swept away. So your only other option is let those guys go out with the remedy that the commission has, or pull the match, which means this guy who did everything right gets no match. You see where that becomes a problem? Because I am very much on the side of Coach Eugene, fully. I hate it. I hate it for other reasons, though. I don't hate it for the unfairness. It is unfair. There's a reason we have weight classes. I just don't hate it. I came from the time we didn't even weigh in. It was just one, you go fight this guy. Okay, whatever. So I don't necessarily understand it from that perspective, but I do understand it from the perspective that you said that you were going to do something and you now have an advantage. And I want to tell you guys this story. And I've told this before, but not in a period of time. This is very relevant. Dana White. Okay. Because a lot of guys will think that there's pressure on them to take a fight where they're now at a disadvantage. I want to share this with you so you understand the mind of Dana, who ultimately is the mind you're trying to please, right? We had what's called a fighter summit, and it was the second fighter summit ever. Now the UFC holds it every year. I learned more at this damn fighter summit, and this separated me from the pack, but also separated me from the pack because it was held in Las Vegas, and the pack was using that to party each night. And I was out there using this to learn stuff. So I would show up at these meetings, these guys would be hungover. I had a notepad and a pen. I was sitting in the front row like that nerdy kid in class, but I was getting more information given to me direct. No cameras, this is just for the boys. And I remember when Dana came in the room. And one of the things Dana was talking about, and this was this was in 2009, 2008, 2009. Second one they ever had. And there was a thing going through the sport right at that time where guys were getting illegal blows. Whether it was knee in the head, just making this up, low blow, whatever it was, but illegal where the ref was stopping and calling it illegal. The crowd's going to boo. They're booing the guy who was violated. They're booing the victim. But this is the way it worked. And a lot of times, the victim, as I'll call him, the one that was violated, would get up. They'd get up and push on just because the roar of the crowd, because they thought that's what Dana wanted. They thought it was the right thing to do. They thought it was a tough game. And Dana came in and he said, I just want to make this perfectly clear with everybody because I'm reading this in the media a lot. And I want you guys to know it right from me. If you are ever fouled in a fight, I do not ever expect you to go on. That is a personal choice that you make. But you're not going to get any blame from me if you don't do it. And just so you understand, you're not going to get any credit from me if you do it. That is a personal choice. If you get up and you continue that match and you don't win, I'm not going to look back and say, well, you were fouled and you went out there and tried. At the same time, I'm never going to be upset. You go do your part. You follow the rules. The referee gets involved. He does his thing, and whatever happens, happens. And then Dana went on to say, he said, as a matter of fact, just so we're clear on a statistic, this is an old statistic, because again, 2009. But he said there has only been one fighter ever in the UFC who has been fouled, got up from a foul, and came back to win. He laid out. That was his only comment. My interpretation of that comment was that Dana was not only sincere in saying, I do not expect you to go on. But then he went a little bit further to share with you a reason that perhaps you shouldn't go on. So he was very, very sincere in this. I offer that to you because you're not dealing with a pressure here. You're just dealing with a choice. When they come to you and your opponent has missed weight, do I want the 20? For me, yes. I've been in this spot one time. It was just before Christmas. It was with a gentleman named Paulo Filho, who I have some great memories. I had a big rival with him. Now I have just great memories of Paulo. I think he would say the same about me. They took 20% of his purse. He was the highest paid guy in the organization at that time. I ended up with $12,000. I didn't know how I was going to get my mom Christmas, but I didn't know. I'm just sharing with you. For me, great. I'm okay with the remedy. To Dana's point, not very many people have ever been at a disadvantage and come back to overcome that. To Eugene Berryman's point, who has the right to issue a point as the current top coach in the sport right now, his opinion matters. He's saying this is criminal. There's something to look at there, and there's not something that we're going to be able to do to fix this, guys. And before you did fix it, don't forget, the fix is now going to create a victim of the guy who did everything right, because you're going to take the fight with him. So you don't want to go by the wrestling standards that I grew up under. You know. You want to put back on the guy who now has a choice and gets a little bit of a financial incentive to do it. But it's very relevant that you understand that, because we're not going to get a fix. The way that the commissions are doing this right now is very fair, and they're doing it with heart. You're just not seeing that. It's appearing because many of the guys who are violating the rules are going on to get their hand raised. It doesn't affect their ratings. They move on to the next card. They get to stay in the same weight class. You're looking and going, well, that isn't really fair. Okay, you could be right. But if we do it the other way, we now punish a guy who did nothing wrong. So ultimately, it does need to be his choice. And that's how the commission sees it. They will come to you and say, do you want to do the fight? You do not have to. This fight is off. Joe Silva, who I dealt with at the time, could not have been more above board. This is up to you. When I was in this fight, he said, look, this guy missed weight. It's our main event. We're counting on this, but you are not under any pressure from me. I need a decision. I need the next 10 minutes. I'm going to go over here and you guys talk. I'm just sharing with you. We can't fix this. We can complain about it, but we can't fix it. So what we need to do is to come in with societal pressure. We need to do what Coach Berriman has talked about. We need to let guys know this is a violation. You're breaking your word. This is a sport of men, but it's a sport of honor. There is a code. You're breaking the deal. Outside of that, there is nothing else that can be done, but there's nothing else that should be done. Commissions have thought of everything. And before you punish the violator, you are punishing him financially, but don't forget, if you try to punish him to a higher level, you take away from the fans. You take away from the promoter. Nobody ever has any heart for the promoter. The promoter did nothing wrong. You're now going to make him be contractually in violation of what he has with his partner. If it wasn't for ESPN, in all fairness, none of us are here. And ultimately, you're going to hurt the one guy that did nothing wrong. I just want you to keep that in mind, because I don't think that Coach Berriman went too far. And he also has a different perspective, because 2 weeks ago, he had two athletes on a card, both of which did what they said they would do, like all of Coach Berriman's athletes always do, against guys who didn't do what they said they would do. The guys who said they weren't going to do, to the point that Dana White made in 2009, won. There was an advantage. Couple of pounds? Sure. Do I give a damn about a couple pounds? No. Do you give a damn about a couple pounds? No. Was there an advantage to the couple of pounds? Yes, there was.